300,000 years ago, most humans lived without mastering fire. Fire wasn't common. No technique existed for making fire. When it appeared, it came from nature, lightning striking forests, volcanic eruptions, wildfires. Humans could only collect it, carry it, and try to keep it alive. Life without fire was a chain of limitations. During the day, early humans moved, hunted, gathered, and crafted tools. At night, everything stopped. No light, no warmth, no defense. Without cooking, food was mostly raw. Eating raw meat increased the risk of parasites, bacteria, and strained the digestive system. Wild tubers, hard seeds, and roots, without heat, were often toxic or indigestible. Lack of fire meant poor nutrition. Children were stunted. The elderly weakened quickly. Mortality rates were high. The climate was unstable. Earth was in the Pleistocene, a long glacial epoch. Average temperatures were low, especially in Europe and Asia. During extended rain or humidity, people had no way to dry hides, tools, or even themselves. Warmth was a matter of survival, but there was no stable solution. Archaeological evidence supports this. At many Middle Pleistocene sites, traces of human habitation exist, but no ash, no charcoal, no heat-altered soil. These locations show humans were present, but fire control was absent. At Olorgesailie in Kenya, where hundreds of Homo erectus stone tools were found, researchers discovered almost no burned remains or cooking signs. A similar pattern appears in the early layers of Zhoukoudian, China, before ash traces emerge in later strata. The unreliability of fire technology made survival dependent on luck. When fire was available, they clung to it. When it died, life reverted to primal conditions, living by the sun, vulnerable to predators, eating raw, freezing, sick, and helpless. In that context, the fire keeper became the heart of the group. Fire was not just a tool, it was a symbol of survival, endurance, and authority. Keeping fire overnight required experience, patience, knowledge of fuel, airflow, and humidity. It's likely that elders, no longer hunting, were the first firekeepers. This created early social roles. Fire allowed task division, gave status to knowledge holders, and marked the beginning of cultural inheritance, a form of collective memory without writing. Before fire, there were no nighttime gatherings, no evening conversations, stories, teachings, or rituals. Fire extended waking hours, altered biological rhythms, and enabled community memory to form. Fire controlled space. Even a small flame repelled predators, improving group defense. A cave with fire became a safer refuge. Around fire, humans began to establish rudimentary settlements. From an evolutionary view, this was pivotal. Before fire, Homo erectus or Homo sapiens were reactive beings. With fire, began to shape their environment. Not just respond, but adapt. No flame is eternal. But the act of maintaining fire paved the way for what made us human: planning, cooperation, communication. Fire wasn't yet widespread, but it laid the foundation for humanity's next leap. Until humans mastered fire, they were not truly themselves. Part 2. When fire ignites. Around 300,000 years ago, fire began to appear purposefully in human life. Not all groups could make it, but some had learned how to maintain and harness it. We don't have definitive archaeological data on where or when fire was first tamed, but evidence from sites like Gesher Benot Yaakov, Israel, approximately 780,000 years ago, Wonderwork Cave, South Africa, evenings became time for tool making, food preparation, hide working, and most importantly, verbal communication. Cooking was a biological leap. Cooked food was easier to chew and digest, reducing energy needed for stomachs and jaws, freeing resources for brain growth. Richard Wrangham, Harvard, argued cooking may have driven brain expansion in Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. Fire enabled migration to colder climates, expanding human range beyond the equator. Warmth allowed survival in extreme cold, unsuitable for naked apes. This was key to geographic spread and the evolution of diverse Homo branches. More than energy, fire changed social structure. Around fires, people gathered in circles. This became the foundation of community. Anthropologists call this the fire circle hypothesis. Fire forced humans to cluster. Nighttime proximity stimulated storytelling, experience sharing. Under flickering light, imagination grew. Memory was reshaped into words. Language became the key tool. Primitive rituals, ancestral worship, retelling hunts, origin myths likely arose around fire. This was the dawn of intangible culture, collective memory, belief, symbolic systems. Fire supported education. Children observed adults cooking, crafting, sharing, learning through flame-lit observation, not just instinct. Fire became social. A natural accident transformed into cultural foundation. Some scholars call this the fire phenomenon, the turning point making Homo sapiens distinct from all other apes. Fire was the first technology we didn't create with our bodies, but learned to control and share. Its importance appears in all later cultures, from Greek sacred fires, Zoroastrian rituals, to Prometheus myths, echoes of a memory that shaped humanity. Fire didn't just warm, it restructured life. It shaped intellect and society. And from the moment we controlled it, we began to control our future. Part 3, Stone, the memory of mankind. Fire brought energy, but stone allowed humans to manipulate the physical world. From around 2.5 million years ago, humans began crafting stone tools. This is the oldest technology with physical evidence. Oldowan tools, found in Africa, mark the first deliberate technological behavior. Stone became an extension of the body. A sharp flake replaced claws. A stone axe stood in for fists. A pointed tool took the place of canines. From a biologically weak species, Homo habilis and Homo erectus became organized hunters. Stone tools weren't random. They reflected a chain of calculated actions. Early humans selected materials, the salt, flint, obsidian, for hardness and fracture control. They understood force, impact points, fracture lines. This was technical thinking. Many sites show repeated tool shapes and techniques over generations. This proves knowledge was passed on, not by genes, but by learning. Early humans learned through observation, imitation, and practice. Over time, distinct stone cultures emerged. The Acheulean phase, with its symmetrical hand axes, suggests that aesthetics and standardization appeared over 1 million years ago. Tools were not just effective, they were balanced, aligned. This hints at a concept of quality. Stone tools reflected social function. A small spear tip made for agile prey, a large blade for dividing meat, a grinding slab for processing plants or hides. The variety suggests early labor division. In archaeology, stone tools are the most durable artifacts. They survive for hundreds of thousands of years. They don't rot, they don't decay. Stone is thus the richest data source for reconstructing early human behavior. Each tool is physical proof of intelligence. A shaped stone proves someone once held it, understood its structure, imagined an outcome, and took deliberate action. Stone also served memory. A tool set aside for future use showed the first signs of storage thinking. Scattered flakes revealed production processes, planning, trial and error, adjustment. At many sites, stone tools appear alongside food remnants, chopped bones, ash, tuber peelings. This paints a full picture. Early humans used tools to hunt, process, and eat in sequence. Of special note is the emergence of toolkits, multiple tools for a single task. This reflects pre-planned organization. Early humans didn't just react, they prepared. Tools were also carried. Humans didn't always make tools on site, they brought favorite ones. Some stone flakes were sourced from quarries dozens of kilometers away. This shows material evaluation, usefulness awareness, and structured movement. Tools could be communicative. In some early cultures, Distinct tool shapes identified group, region, or role. A person with fine tools might be seen as a skilled artisan with higher social status. Repeatedly repaired tools showed attachment, linked to identity or ownership. In short, stone wasn't just material. It was a system recording human behavior, cognition, skill, and social structure. If fire changed physiology, stone revealed intellect. If fire expanded habitats, stone preserved evolutionary memory. In human history, stone was the first data. It was where memory began. Part 4, where fire meets stone. When early humans mastered both fire and stone, they held the two most foundational prehistoric technologies. Fire provided thermal energy, survival in cold, extended activity time, better food quality. Stone offered mechanical advantage, from hunting to tool making, building, and defense. Together, fire and stone brought stability. Groups who maintained both could settle longer, build sustainable communities, and pass knowledge through generations. Key archaeological sites show traces of both in the same cultural layers. At Gesher Benot Yaakov, Israel, hearth remnants sit beside refined tools. 780,000 years ago, at Wonderwork Cave, South Africa, deep ash deposits coexist with basic tools. At Zhoukoudian, China, fire traces, burned bones, and stone tools appear together, showing high community organization. These weren't just temporary shelters. They show signs of long-term occupation, food prep, animal processing, tool production. Humans returned cyclically, left tools behind, maintained fire over time. This marked humanity's first learning environments. Adults tended fire, made tools, divided food. Youth watched, imitated, practiced. Children grew up where knowledge was learned, not instinctively, but through repetition and action. Here, fire traveled vertically, through time, from yesterday to today. Stone traveled horizontally, through society, from master to student, old to young. Fire kept rhythm. Stone preserved structure. With both, humans not only survived, they organized life. They created routines: gather wood, light fire, cook, craft, preserve. These sequences enabled planning, the trait that sets humans apart from other primates. Fire and stone also anchored social centers. Before, humans were scattered, no fixed place for night interaction. With fire, they gathered. With tools, they shared skills. This became an organized space where language evolved, memory formed, roles emerged. Staying in one place for days, even weeks, was a breakthrough. It allowed better care for pregnant women, stable learning for children, and opportunities for elders to pass on wisdom. At these sites, archaeology reveals cross-generational collaboration. Some tools were highly refined, indicating guidance, correction, apprenticeship. Not the work of one, but a teaching process. This proves continuous technical tradition, vital for later craftsmanship. In some cases, settlements reached 20 to 50 individuals, sharing resources. That required spatial organization: fire zone, tool zone, bone disposal, communal area. The spatial function of early camps reveals planning, a distinct human trait. From fire and stone emerged two axes: vertical, inheritance, and horizontal, sharing. Prehistoric humans began to build social structure, setting the stage for villages, then cities. Fire enabled survival, stone enabled memory. Together, they turned scattered bands into remembered communities. Part 5. Fire still burns, stone still remembers. The legacy of fire and stone persists in modern life, though most no longer notice. Fire is no longer crude flames. It's electricity, fuel, artificial light, thermal engines. Everything, from cooking and heating to transportation and industry, still runs on thermal principles rooted in prehistoric firemaking. Stone is no longer primitive tools, but the principle, using hard, sharp materials to manipulate matter, is the foundation of all modern mechanics. Knives, cutters, drills, surgical instruments are descendants of ancient stone tools. Archaeologists study flakes and ash, not just for material, but behavior. Each crack, burn mark, edge reveals thought sequences, material choice, shaping, use, transmission. What remains underground isn't just objects, it's intelligence data, how our ancestors thought, responded, adapted. Fire and stone were the first signs of our shift from instinct to organization. When we kept fire, we extended life. When we crafted stone, we gained environmental control. When combined, we created social space for knowledge sharing, learning, accumulation. Thus, the legacy of fire and stone is not only technological, but cultural and psychological. Fire symbolizes life, intellect, unity. Stone symbolizes memory, durability, and transmission. In truth, all human history, from foraging to farming, metallurgy to digital tech, is a continued expansion of two original ideas: energy harnessing and material crafting. In medicine, the scalpel is the modern blade. In construction, concrete and steel carry the legacy of durable stone. In education, learning through observation and practice echoes fire circle teaching. Every modern city, with power grids, transport, infrastructure, is an expansion of ancient camps around fire and stone workshops. We think we live in a new world, but at the core, it is still the world of fire and stone, abstracted, amplified, and digitized. Even our idea of a center, from home hearths and office desks to networks and data hubs, descends from ancient gathering around fire. There, they shared stories, taught skills, divided food, and remembered. This reveals a truth. Technological progress is not detached from the past. It's a continuous thread. To understand the future, we must understand the roots. And those roots began with two fundamental acts: striking fire and shaping stone. Today, prehistoric studies don't just ask what humans did, but why they did it. The reasons are always the same: to live, to understand, and to not be forgotten. Our ancestors didn't just survive. They left traces, not in words, but in ashes and broken stones. And to this day, when we flip a switch, wield a knife, drill a hole, cook a meal, we continue what they began. Fire and stone. Not just history, but the invisible infrastructure of the entire human world.